You're listening to the Heartland Newsfeed Radio Network, heartlandnewsfeed.com.
The Public News Service Daily Newscast for Monday, January the 14th, 2019. I'm Mike Clifford. President Trump down 5% in the latest poll as the government shutdown drags on. Also on our Monday rundown, prison workers say the shutdown could endanger public safety and encouraging diversity among nature lovers. Topping our news, a CNN poll published Sunday found that Trump's disapproval rating is now at 57%. That's a 5-point difference from December. The ongoing partial government shutdown began December the 22nd. The Hill notes the poll also found his approval rating is at 37%. That's roughly the same as it was last month. According to the poll, 55% of respondents said Trump is to blame for the shutdown. 32% said Democrats are mostly to blame. Another 9% said both sides are to blame. And as federal employees go into their second pay period without a paycheck, desperation to make ends meet could pose serious risk for workers in the federal prison system. Tramel Gomes has our report.
With no end in sight for the shutdown, workers are worried, including those who commute from out of state for jobs at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee. Ray Coleman is president of the American Federation of Government Employees Union Local. He's also a corrections officer at the prison and says some people serving time will use anything to their advantage, including overly stressed employees.
They'll test you. They'll definitely try to see what they can get away with, see what they can get over on, see if they can compromise a staff member because they know you aren't getting paid. And when that happens, then you have a problem.
Hundreds of thousands of workers are stranded without pay as President Donald Trump demands funding for his long-promised border wall. The Florida AFL-CIO and other labor groups are organizing a series of rallies and events around the state urging the president and Congress to reopen the government. Coleman says although they aren't getting paid, he and many others are still required to be at work or risk disciplinary actions.
And the Trump administration has taken steps to shield the Interior Department from public scrutiny by restricting public records requests allowed through the Freedom of Information Act, also known as FOIA.
The proposal would allow the agency to deny requests it deems burdensome or vague, and officials at the agency say it's necessary because FOIA requests are bogging down the department's work. Jason O'Neill with the Western Values Project calls the move an attack on open public records and transparency.
As our organization and others have found, there's been a clear link between special interests, industry interests, and the work and the rule changes that have been done at Interior under this administration.
Interior Department officials say the changes are needed because FOIA requests have increased 30% in the past 2 years. Without access to government records, O'Neill says his group would not have uncovered documents showing industry requests for changes to the Greater Sage-Grouse Management Plan to tip the scale for oil and gas producers over ranching and other interests. He says watchdog organizations such as his and the news media rely on the Freedom of Information Act when agencies aren't transparent in their decision-making. For Public News Service, I'm Roz Brown.
A group of 9 volunteer aid workers goes on trial in Tucson this week for providing humanitarian aid to immigrants at risk crossing the Arizona desert.
The 9 defendants, all volunteers with the nonprofit group No More Deaths, were charged in 2017 with misdemeanors for their activities in the Cabeza Prieta National Wildlife Refuge on the U.S.-Mexico border. The group places jugs of water and other survival supplies for migrants in the refuge. Officials say hundreds of people have died in recent years making the trek across the unforgiving desert terrain. Justine Orlovsky, with No More Deaths, says providing humanitarian aid to save lives should not be a crime.
The reason that we provide aid in that corridor is because we have found and recovered numerous human remains, upwards of hundreds over the course of years. So we see that there's a need there. That means people are traveling on foot through Cabeza.
Orlovsky says No More Deaths is planning a rally outside the federal district court in Tucson prior to the opening of the trial on Tuesday. She says the 9 volunteers were arrested by federal officers for violations such as leaving food and water in the refuge, driving in the area without a permit, and trespassing. The U.S. Border Patrol claims the volunteers' actions are illegal and enable migrants to illegally enter the country. Mark Richardson reporting.
No More Deaths Charter states that their goal is to prevent death and suffering along the Mexico-U.S. border. The group says their volunteers have faced similar charges in the past, but none of them was convicted. And finally, Antoinette Kerr tells us Western North Carolina's rich public lands are technically open to all. A new group has decided to go the extra mile to encourage more people of color to enjoy them.
Elsie Brown, with the coalition Blue Ridge Forever, says the Pathways to Parks group, based in Asheville, was formed with a focus on inclusion.
There's sort of an image, there's a particular kind of person that is well represented. Our population is becoming more and more mixed race and more people of color. It's really important that we really step it up as environmental organizations and engage those people.
The National Park Service says Great Smoky Mountains National Park had more than 16 million visitors last year, and 97% self-identified as white.
A survey of nearly 3,000 Americans and Canadians found that among the 1 million people who went camping for the first time in 2016, nearly 1 in 5 was black and 11% were Latino. That's double the rate for those groups in 2014. I'm Mike Clifford. Thanks for starting your week newsin' and cruisin' with Public News Service. We are member and listener supported, and we're online at publicnewsservice.org.
Hi, I'm Joan London. When I needed to find senior care for my mom, I really struggled to find the right fit until I found an advisor, someone who had been through this before. That's why I recommend A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. They have experts who will help you ask the right questions and find the right place. Call A Place for Mom today.
To speak with a local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-908-0265. That's 1-800-908-0265.
A Place for Mom has helped over 200,000 families find the right senior care for their parents, from assisted living to independent living, even Alzheimer's care, and have local advisors that can help explain your options at no cost to you.
To speak with a local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-908-0265. That's 1-800-908-0265.
Call today.
And good morning to you. Welcome to RFD today on this Monday, January 14th, 2019. Lots of information. We'll be traveling around the country, in fact. In just a couple of minutes, we'll check in with the Director of Issues Management here for Illinois Farm Bureau, Deanne Bloomberg, who is attending the 100th AFBF annual meeting. And, of course, the nation will be looking in New Orleans and at that AFBF meeting as the President is expected to make that visit later today. We'll also get some highlights for the awards and the competitions that took place over the weekend. Deanne will join us. We'll also get a wrap from Mike Orso, who will also talk about some of the happenings and the agenda for the week in New Orleans. We'll check in with the Ag Roundtable, some highlights from this past week, and, of course, wrap the hour up with Dale Durkolt's Agrivisor Services. Stay with us. This is RFD Today.
Being around too much loud noise like a leaf blower or rock concert can cause permanent hearing loss, and once it's gone, you can't get it back. Hearing loss is the third most common chronic health condition in the U.S. Almost twice as many people report hearing loss as diabetes or cancer. The louder a sound is, and the longer you're exposed to it, the more likely it will damage your hearing. Repeated exposure to noise can cause stress, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, heart disease, and many other problems. Hearing loss from loud noise at home and in the community can be prevented. Avoid noisy places. Use earplugs, protective earmuffs, or noise-canceling headphones when near loud noises. Keep the volume down when watching TV or listening to music and using earbuds or headphones. Get your hearing checked and ask your healthcare provider how to protect your hearing from noise. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
I used to say I was an Illinois Farm Bureau member because it gives us farmers a voice in Washington. Then there was a bad regulation proposed in my community. That's when I learned what my county Farm Bureau does for me right here in my own backyard. From giving scholarships to local kids to tackling township or zoning concerns, Farm Bureau starts right here. And now, that's why I say I'm a member.
Call your county Farm Bureau and rediscover your grassroots power. Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Kay Shipman connects rural routes for you. For 3 decades, Kay has delivered important news. She covers everything from legislative issues to the latest in soil and water conservation. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I love covering so many aspects of agriculture and providing readers with the facts they need to make better decisions. I also get to work with farmers and meet new people along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com and Farm Week keep you connected.
Perfect music to head down to New Orleans and check in with Deanne Bloomberg on site at the American Farm Bureau Federation annual meeting. Good morning, Deanne.
Good morning, Rita.
What to you has been the highlight so far of your time in New Orleans?
There's so many different things. I would say this morning being at the Illinois Farm Bureau breakfast and seeing 385 attendees from Illinois here, we have a definite presence, but also that it was sponsored by Country Financial. That means we've got our sister brother state farm bureaus, Washington, Nevada, that were in Oregon that are in the room with us, along with Alaska, and just meeting those people that were there as well. So things are just getting really going,
Yeah, and then this has been, I'm sure, kind of very exciting for you because for the first time in decades, you are attending this as a director of issues management and not as a county farm bureau manager.
I am. This morning when President Giebert asked for county farm bureau managers to stand, I got ready to shift my napkin and stand up. I'm like, okay, no, just stay seated, Deanne. I'm just very fortunate to be able to represent Illinois here along with so many other staff and volunteers. We just have a really great message to tell.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned, it's even more busy today because of President Trump's planned visit. What kind of things are you guys going to have to go through? And tell us about your agenda today.
So they did move some things around. They actually shut down the trade show. So for those county farm bureaus that have their programs that were selected to be featured and showcased, they'll be doing that this afternoon. So they flipped it around. The Final Four discussion meet is actually happening in the general session first thing this morning. So I think that's really great, for a positive side there. They are telling us that it's a lot more organized this year, and that, I'm fortunate that I'll be able to go in with the media, but there are going to be the long lines and what you can and can't bring. And it doesn't seem to be the long wait as I understand it that it was last year. So, President is expected to take the stage at 11:40, along with Secretary Sonny Perdue. We believe that he has yielded his time to the president, as I understand it. So this is a back-to-back where he will be addressing farmers from around the United States. So we have an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And we go back to that national platform. What they say today will have a grand impact on not only ag, but the nation. And, what kind of stories will be coming out of that message?
First thing I heard this morning is, and we put out a call to Farmers for Free Trade. We're at our breakfast this morning, and it is about USMCA. And I want to urge everyone back home to get their phones out and text USMCA to 52886. That again is text USMCA to 52886. And then you'll be sent a link and you can click through the screens. But just a reminder to everyone, this is the new NAFTA agreement. So trade is going to be on the front burner. That is a very, very big, that's being talked about more than anything than the government shutdown right now.
Yeah, and as it goes to the bigger picture issues, as you know, because your feet are so close to the farmers, this with Canada and Mexico trade for our commodities, especially livestock, the Mexico and Canada agreements are critical. I mean, China is huge, but these other relationships are just so critical to our future.
When we were when you come to the American Farm Bureau, you get to see a whole other piece of all the other agriculture and all the other crops. for example, yesterday Senator Pat Roberts mentioned, you know what? Mexico used to buy our wheat. Now they're getting it from Argentina. And that puts it in a completely different perspective. You know, we're just always staying with corn, soybean, pork, but, you know, we're a significant piece of that trade. And there's a lot of farmers that are concerned that we've lost that market.
Delegates will also meet, even though the president will sort of highlight things today and Secretary Perdue. But when delegates start their meeting, Deanne, anything other than what we just mentioned, do you think will take up some delegate time?
You know, there are considerable pieces that we've submitted with health insurance, and, you know, Illinois Farm Bureau has been working on that health insurance task force for the last year. And I think that's one item that we're really going to be talking a lot about tomorrow on the delegate floor. That is a huge issue. But also some of the other pieces that the gentleman will be talking about, of course, will be trade, you know, and really making sure that our message continues to be heard by the administration, that these trade agreements are critical and we need those opportunities outside our borders.
Less than 2 minutes here in this segment. With that, we'll let you give some shout-outs to some awesome Illinois Farm Bureau members who have competed there in New Orleans.
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to, and I can say this, Henry County's very own Megan Dwyer for her phenomenal job in the discussion meet. She made it in the Sweet 16, as we say. And then, of course, to the sprays. They're in the top 10 for the achievement. So, you know, we've just got a really solid, good feeling, not to mention we've got the talent that we've got on breakouts. Krista Swanson was on a breakout yesterday afternoon, sharing her knowledge that she has and working at the University of Illinois and looking at those critical numbers that farmers don't like to spend so much time right now in January, February looking at. So, yeah, there's no doubt that Illinois is very much present here, and you can definitely see that when you talk to the other people. We've also been working the clean water booth to try and help AFBF send messages as well to the EPA. However, we are waiting for the government to open back up so that the Federal Register can be published in regards to the Clean Water Clear rules, which is replacing WOTUS. Mm.
Well, you mentioned the text message that you'd like folks to respond to this issue. We'll give that again, but also they can follow us on Twitter, and FarmWeekNow.com has some fabulous pictures and updates.
Exactly. And people will also be able to live stream a lot of the messaging today. So, and I believe there was even talk of capturing the video of the president's speech. So, and stay tuned. Stay tuned.
And that, again, last second here, give us that text that we should get out for the farmer's response.
That is text US, M as in mom, C as in cat, A as in alpha to 52886.
Deanne, you're the very best. Good luck to you today, and we'll be watching and looking for more on FarmWeekNow.com and on Twitter. Deanne Bloomberg, Director of Issues Management, Illinois Farm Bureau. Back with more in a moment.
With this week's edition of Farm Week, the early word, here's DeLaw Schonke.
Benefits from the new United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement will be negated by tariffs and U.S. withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, according to the Center for Global Trade Analysis. Get in-depth information about the current agricultural trade situation in the latest Farm Week. Bureau County farmer Michael Ganshow and his crop advisor Malcolm Stambaugh of AgView FS have earned a national 4R award from the Fertilizer Institute. Learn more about their award-winning conservation efforts in this week's edition of Farm Week.
No other Farm Weekly in Illinois has as many people on the ground in Illinois covering Illinois agriculture for you with the depth on key issues to help keep you profitable. And don't forget, you can get daily or even more frequent updates online anytime at FarmWeekNow.com.
Farm, family, food. Those three words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
Be it through headlines, microphones, or tweets, Mike Orso connects rural routes for you. Mike has been covering farm and food issues for more than 3 decades. Whether it's print, video, radio, or feeding your online appetite, Mike keeps you in the loop. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I keep our communities, state, and country in mind with everything I do. My job allows me to work toward this mission with farmers and other rural Illinoisans.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
This is the story of Mrs. Clark, who has lived on this very block most of her 80 years, often seen walking to town or serving brownies to the neighborhood kids, and everyone loves her. 2 years ago, a certain family member moved in to look after Mrs. Clark, and that's when everything changed. Mrs. Clark became the victim of elder abuse.
Elder abuse is often closer to home than you think or want to believe. McGruff, the crime dog here. The National Crime Prevention Council wants you to know the signs of elder abuse. Bruises, isolation, reduced activities, poor hygiene, depression, and financial problems. Protect yourself and speak out if you recognize signs of abuse in others.
Elder abuse is a crime that affects over 2 million senior citizens every year. Even more astounding, it's most commonly committed by a family member or someone they trusted. If you suspect abuse, contact your local law enforcement agency. To learn more, go to ncpc.org/seniors. That's ncpc.org/seniors. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Department of Justice.
From the 100th convention of the American Farm Bureau Federation in New Orleans, I'm Mike Orso, with about 400 Illinois farmers and others from the state that have made the trip south. Thankful we're away from the snow for now, but it has gotten quite chilly here in the Crescent City. Activity started on Saturday with 5 Illinois Young Farm leaders competing in the Discussion Meet, Achievement Award, and Excellence in Agriculture Award competitions. Andrew and Heather Spray, who farm near West Salem in Edwards County, competed on behalf of Illinois in the Excellence in Agriculture Award contest.
Walk through our life of meeting, getting married with kids, but getting in with the job she's in right now, and also where I was at to get to the hydroponic greenhouse that I am in right now, plus the row crop farming. So we put all that together, plus our Farm Bureau involvement.
So how did you think it went?
I thought it went pretty well. We've practiced so much. We were just ready to get it over with. But overall, I thought the presentation went very well. The question and answer session at the end, maybe could have done a little better on, but overall, it was good.
The Sprays help Heather's parents with their 1,300-acre row crop farm, but broke into the lettuce and leafy greens market with their greenhouse. They supply restaurants and markets in 3 states from their Southeast Illinois farm.
It's an awesome time to be in agriculture. There's so much diversity in what you can do, and we've had a lot of doors open to us we're very thankful for. Farm Bureau has been a big part of that.
What do you tell other young people, even those that might not be in ag? Are there opportunities?
There's definitely opportunities. You got to be willing to take a chance and jump out there and do something. Don't be afraid to take that leap of faith like we did to get to where we are now. It definitely takes a lot of faith.
And I would say surround yourself with good mentors, people who are going to support you, provide advice when needed. That really just gives you the extra confidence that you need to do something that's different.
The Sprays competed against 29 other state excellence in ag entries. And yesterday it was announced they made it into the top 10 group of young leader finalists. Results will be announced today at the meeting's second general session. Also on Sunday, a former chairman of the American Farm Bureau's Young Leader Program and now the president of the organization, Zippy Duvall, officially opened the convention by walking some 7,000 attendees through the first 100 years of the organization. Duvall talked about the group's first decade of existence and how it got needed attention to problems in farm country.
President of the United States during the time was President Harding, and he wanted to recess Congress and for a period of time. The Farm Bloc, encouraged by American Farm Bureau because they had not passed our legislation, would not go into recess. So the President of the United States in the 20s called American Farm Bureau staff into the Oval Office and said, okay, boys, you got us where you want us. What do you want us to do?
As far as most recent history, Duvall called the last year terrible for some, with labor shortages, hurricanes, wildfires, and a trade war that dropped already slumping farm commodity prices. Still, he touted certainty provided by a new federal farm bill, passed by Congress and signed by the President late last year.
It improves our risk management tools. It protects our crop insurance, which is a cornerstone of our farm bill. It funded trade development, which we crucially need right now. It makes investments in research and development and in beginning farmers. It definitely is a complete package.
The chairman of the U.S. Senate Agriculture Committee, Pat Roberts of Kansas, followed Duvall and entertained convention attendees with his typical folksy stories. But the Republican, who recently announced he will not seek re-election in 2020, got serious, too.
Since we did Freedom to Farm quite some back ago, I thought, can't we do something a little more exciting than the Agriculture Improvement Act? This was not the time to be exciting. It was not the time to be revolutionary. It was time to provide certainty and predictability to farmers who are going through a very rough patch. All regions, all commodities, and by golly, we did just that.
Among the first two items, Roberts says the Senate Agriculture Committee will spend time on during his final 2 years as its leader will be hearings on such things as climate change and trade.
It's just not having the gavel, folks. It's what you do with it. And while leading farm bill efforts in the House and Senate, I've always been mindful of the vital role that farm families, the men and women who work the land and energize our communities and protect our nation's values, play in a troubled and hungry world. We're getting close. And that's not going to change over the next 2 years. I intend to sprint to the finish line.
Finally, 5 county farm bureaus from Illinois had the opportunity to exhibit activities the American Farm Bureau deemed innovative program ideas in the organization's County Activities of Excellence program. The first we'll highlight comes from a collaborative among the Adams, Hancock, and the Pike-Scott County Farm Bureaus. They created a series of advertisements designed to connect with the consuming public. Let's hear more from farmers Kim Curry, president of the Pike-Scott County Farm Bureau, and Wayne Brown, vice president of the organization.
You know, it was an idea that several counties had put together, and what's important to us as farmers, and you know, just trying to let people know what we're all about, what we need, and what's important to us. So.
Kim, how effective has it been?
Well, I think it's very effective. I mean, as Wayne said, we're trying to educate the county, but about livestock issues and agronomy and also environmental issues. And we're trying to promote the idea that we as farmers take pride in our work and our product.
We'll feature more Illinois County Farm Bureau Counties of Excellence Award winners over the next couple of days. On tap for today, the first U.S. president to make back-to-back addresses to an American Farm Bureau convention. 7 U.S. presidents have addressed AFBF over its 100-year history, but only one, Donald Trump, will have done it 2 years in a row. In New Orleans for the RFD Radio Network and RFD Today, I'm Mike Orso.
Stay tuned for more on RFD Today, right here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Corn. Thanks to Illinois corn farmers, you can see it just about everywhere here in the land of Lincoln. What you may not know is the unexpected places you can find corn, like your gas tank. 97% of all fuel sold in the U.S. is a 10% ethanol blend. And here in Illinois, we're a top producer of ethanol. Not only does it drive your car, it drives our economy. Be sure to proudly choose an ethanol blend at the pump the next time you fill up. Illinois runs on homegrown corn and Illinois-made ethanol. Visit ilcorn.org to find out more. A message from Illinois corn farmers and their checkoff.
RFD Radio Network's Rita Frazier connects rural routes for you. Rita delivers passion and reliable information to listeners on the RFD Radio Network. Her radio career spans close to 3 decades. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up on a small farm. My job today allows me to connect with people from all walks of life and experience opportunity every day. I get to talk about what I love. farming.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards loyalty program with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/Farm Bureau.
You're going to need me. You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our technical skills,
our math, our engineering skills.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food. You're going to need our organizational skills, our problem-solving skills.
You're going to need our determination, our honesty, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise, we'll be there when you need us. Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders. Support us at 4h.org.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Welcome back. Welcome back to RFD today on a Monday. Last week, I had a conversation with Illinois farmer Terry Pope. He is a farmer, and he is also the director of the Economic Development Corporation for Hancock County, his farm. His farm is located in that county. So we talked to Terry also about preparing for next year's planting season and assessing this past year in agriculture. Terry, and I just kind of wanted to ask you, talk about your 2018 crop on the farm and what your thoughts are as far as your planning. Where are you in your final plans or your thoughts for the spring?
Flexible is the word. I am usually 2/3 corn and 1/3 beans, but and I was fortunate that I got all my crop out. We still have some corn and beans in the area that still need to get out. It's really wet. Very little fall tillage done. So it's going to be interesting to see what the spring brings.
You're always a very thoughtful producer. Did you try the dicamba technology, weed management? Where does that section of your plan fall?
I have used all Extend beans for the last 2 years. Last year we did use dicamba product, and just to make sure we were using it right. My family garden is 50 feet from the soybean field that I sprayed, and we had no issues. The whole key is following the directions. Mm-hmm. You know, right humidity, right temperature, right wind speed, right wind direction. You know, all those things are important, and we had no issues. So, and had excellent control, and I'm planning on doing that again this year. So.
And do you do your own spraying, Terry, or do you have your local co-op do it?
I have it custom applied. Mm-hmm. And I got into that when I was on the State Farm Bureau Board. I had to make certain decisions of what I could do and what I couldn't do, and the spraying was an option that somebody else could do, and I could do the planning. So.
Well, I'm glad it's working out for you. The other thing I guess I would ask is that what we've heard out there on the soybean seed in particular, because of that wet fall in many chunks of the state, the quality of soybean seed might be an issue. Are you hearing that, or have you heard that?
I have heard that, but I haven't heard it directly from my seed supplier. So, I don't know. I haven't, from my seed supplier, haven't heard what the quality, or if there will be quality issues. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully enough seed was produced that, we'll have good quality seed. But I know how it was all over the Midwest. It was a tough time harvesting this year. So that remains to be seen.
So while you wait on those final plans, I suppose, the other thing that's interesting, lots of focus on soil health, it seems, this year more than anything. And the other thing that we've heard a lot about is getting soybeans planted early. Is that got you revved up? Are you going in that direction too?
We've always tried to plant our soybeans the last several years late April, early May, which is considered early. And we've had good yield response. And you mentioned soil health. I think that's something that there's probably been more discussion, at least in my area this fall, than I've ever heard, and it's because it was so wet that, and I'm included, we made ruts getting some of the crop out, but the choice was make ruts or the crop's still out there. So, but then what do you do with that? And interestingly enough, most of us have decided that, yes, we did some damage, but we don't want to make any more. And so the idea of trying to do fall tillage in mud makes absolutely no sense because you're not helping it any. So, at least in the area around here, I think there's a lot of consideration of let's let the soil try to heal itself, and then let's figure out how we can take care of it next spring.
One more area, just because it's on our thoughts and minds as we head through this month of January, and that's the basis situation. We'll just call it a situation around the state and for farmers. What are you seeing and hearing in your part of the state as far as that's concerned, and especially as we go forward in a very tricky marketing year ahead?
Well, basis has been unusually wide, particularly for soybeans. I mean, I don't know as I've ever in my career seen the basis as wide as it is, but it's wide because we don't have the market we had, and the firms we sell to really don't have a place to go with the beans. And so, they take them, but they only take them at a discount. So, normally where soybeans go out of the Gulf and they go out of the Pacific Northwest, and, when that market's kind of shut down, and we've had an exceptional yields on soybeans, the only thing that happens, not only the price go down, but the basis widens. And so I myself have had to totally rethink how I want to market, particularly the soybean side, because we're going to have to get some market share back, I think, before we really...
Again, Terry Pope, and that conversation will continue later this week. We talked a little bit more about the upcoming season as well. But that topic of the basis levels, we'll talk about that and much more with Dale Durkult coming up next. This is RFD Today.
Remember that movie National Lampoon's Vacation? Well, Clark Griswold has nothing on me. Give me the open road and my Illinois Farm Bureau membership card, and I am the ultimate road warrior. Like last summer, I drove the family to Williamsburg at a fraction of the cost. Once I hit the road, I don't stop for much, so I used my membership to rent a minivan from Enterprise. The kids got more bouncing room, and I saved 5%. Then I used my Illinois Farm Bureau membership to save 20% on choice hotels from here all the way to the East Coast. On the way back, we stopped and saved at our favorite theme park, too. I was hoping it would wear out the kids and they'd sleep. A good thing I got that minivan for bouncing, though. No matter how unique my travel needs are, I know that my membership can help. Illinois Farm Bureau. It's membership for my lifestyle.
Isn't it time you learned how Illinois Farm Bureau member-only discounts fit into your lifestyle? Call your county farm bureau or visit ilfb.org for details.
Let's take a look at the numbers as we roll through this Monday. We are higher in the corn, lower in the beans and the wheat. Nearby March corn up 2 1/4, 3.80 1/2. May up 2 1/4. Out to December new crop corn up 2 1/4. We're at 403 3/4. In the soybean trade, January beans going off. We're down 7 though, 8.92 1/4. March down a nickel. July soybeans down 4 3/4, 9.31 1/2. And new crop soybeans November down a nickel this hour, 9.47. March wheat. Chicago down 2 3/4, 5.16 3/4. May down 3. Next July down 3. And September wheat down 2 3/4. We're at 5.35. And the lean hogs for April up 50 cents at 66.85. And we're back here on RFD today, the 14th of January. Rita Frazier filling in for DeLa Shonke. And our in-studio guest for the next couple of segments, it's the one and only Dale Durkoltz. Hey, Dale.
I got one question.
All right. Make it easy.
AFB's kicking off. Where are the beignets and chicory coffee?
Right. We'll just have to stay tuned to Blake Roderick's post because he's so good about sharing all things food and exciting. Yeah. So back to that question, Dale, we heard Terry Pope talk about. I thought what he said was very interesting because what he said was he wasn't complaining per se. He was just saying that because of the widening basis levels, he has had to change the way he considers or looks at marketing his soybeans.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going on this year. Everybody's really having to rethink. And there were a lot of things that came into play when we go back even into the late summer and fall months when you started to look at the spreads between various different futures and soybeans. Just looking at the spreads alone, and they've been roughly 70-80% of full carry for an awful long time now. And to get to full carry, the Board of Trade uses a 5-cent storage fee, so it's already a pretty aggressive number. That said, you know, this year, especially beans on farm, when you're really looking to market beans, you're basically playing the long game if you can. Hedging them out or putting a hedge to arrive on with a May or July contract and hoping the basis comes together over time, which I think it will, because as you march through time and you keep using up supply, and we are using up beans, you know, you do see that spread between cash and futures narrow, but here in the winter months, you know, it's just not. But then again, this is wholly different than what we've been used to for about the last, let's say, 10 or 15 years, where China's been a big shipper of beans. This year they haven't.
Right, and it's not just one market. China is how much do they buy? 60% of our soybeans typically, and they've been out of it?
Did buy 60%. Somewhere in that range. You know, you go back, and I've talked about this at different times and even put some charts in Farm Week. I don't know if I've done it of recent. But when you look at the pace of shipments, and I look back at sales and shipments and the kind of potential pace we should have if we're going to reach the USDA target based on years we had in the very early 90s, excepting a year like 93 where you had floods and stuff like that. And actually, both sales and shipments are pretty much on pace. What a lot of people don't understand is that all the other customers around the world that are big buyers tend to start their buying and their shipping at the end of summer, right at the beginning of harvest, but their activity extends well into spring. And with China having taken basically all the beans out of Brazil and Argentina and going to be a big taker of beans early on out of their new crop, it said, you know, we need to go back and look at that traditional pace off those old buyers.
Other thing I'd like for you to talk about, if you wouldn't mind, heard last week, because we're fortunate here in Illinois and we have a giant state. So farmers listening, let's just say they're down in the St. Louis area, they use the river terminal market, or farmers in Macon County that go to ADM. There is a wide variance throughout this state. So when we talk about basis spreads and different levels, we have a lot of different markets to consider in that conversation.
There really is. I mean, you have two distinct markets in Illinois, and they're really fortunate because of that, because there are times, especially when stuff gets tight, that competition really does have some positive repercussions in the basis. But you have the whole river-oriented market, the southern part of Illinois, which really has it all year long, really sees that, up here in this part of the state. Sometimes it goes away a little bit because the Illinois gets iced up and shut down, and North Keokuk, Iowa, the Mississippi is always shut down for the winter months themselves. So you got a little lull in there, and the processing market tends to dominate. But like the last couple of winters where it was mild, you had that river market virtually go all winter long too. So, and that kind of creates a competitive game between both sides of the consuming segment for beans.
And with that said, what kind of advice are you sharing with farmers across the state due to this variability?
Well, I don't know that I really have picked out any strategies that are different for different people because we're all somewhat in the same boat this year. But, I think the long haul still suggests, we got some upside potential in the market. We're a little bit volatile right here, right now, because of the shutdown, number one, because of the Chinese negotiations, number two, number three being what's going on with the weather in South America. But I still think at some point here, March beans that are trading $9.05 here at the moment, still look like we're going to get close to $9.50. But when we get there, again, you use those forward months and you want to carry and collect some additional storage income on top of your spot cash market.
You mentioned the government shutdown, and, just take one segment that impacts your life and that of the market is those weekly reports, et cetera, et cetera. What are you seeing in those kinds of terms, and what can we expect this week?
Well, the only thing we do get is, because it comes out of a different segment of the USDA, we still are getting export inspections because that business goes on no matter what. We don't stop loading boats at this point. And if it doesn't come off the AMS, which is so far still open and running, and I think will stay open, you can go to the FGIS and get the data from there. But it's all the rest of the stuff here, especially the export sales sector, that we're really missing at this point, especially while Chinese negotiations are going on. Not only are we not seeing weekly figures, we don't get any daily sales notices at all, which, the market's really struggling with. And at best, you're left with anecdotal evidence, out of the commodity news sector, and, they don't even have a clue a lot of times as to what's going on. Last week, for example, one day there was a rumor out. China bought anywhere from 3 to 15 cargoes of beans. What am I supposed to do with that? They bought some, but how much? I have no clue.
So, minute and a half in this segment. We'll get into South American weather in the next, but as far as other effects of the government shutdown, we mentioned the MFP payments, the delay there, but at least farmers are giving a little bit more time to sign up because of the shutdown.
Yeah, with the government being shut down, a program like that or any other program that had a deadline due, or let's say, it's going to end up with a deadline that's coming up quickly after the government closes, all of those will just be extended to accommodate just the needs of the producer out there. So I don't think those are really of concern. Right now, it's just this uncertainty that it injects into the marketplace. And anytime there is uncertainty, unless it's on the supply or production side of it, it tends to be negative. There is that big tendency out there, and that's been there in the years that I've been in the industry, going back 40 years now. Every time there is some uncertainty, whether it's a government shutdown or some other political move, it tends to be a bit of a drag on prices.
You referenced our director of State FSA, Bill Graff, being out in the farm media this week with some valuable insights and comments.
Yeah, it was an interesting interview. I assumed it was relatively recent, but, you never know when you get into a media thing. But, it did have some things worth noting here. He didn't say anything a whole lot different than what Deanna put in Farm Week this week, though, either.
We'll continue this conversation with Dale Durkolt, Senior Advisor, Agrivisor Services. We'll dive into South American weather when we come back. This is RFD Today. Here's your livestock summary on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Rita Frazier. The average price for wholesale ham in the U.S., 46 cents per pound, is 21% lower than at the same time a year ago, is largely in reaction to the retaliatory 20% tariff levied on U.S. pork by Mexico in 2018, that according to Steiner Consulting. However, this trend of dropping prices, which has coincided with rising exports, may soon end as a USMCA trade agreement will likely result in Mexico dropping the tariff, and China's battle with African swine fever will likely push them to buy more pork imports. Futures today as we roll. Lean hogs April down 7.67.27. Live cattle April up a nickel, 126.42. March feeder cattle down a quarter, 144.65. How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And you know, that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org. We're back on RFD today on the 14th of January as Dale Durkolt, Agrivisor Services Senior Market Analyst, joins us in studio. When we went to our break, Dale, we were talking about the impact of the government shutdown on all of us, but particularly the markets and agriculture in general. There are a lot of things that are still sort of up in the air until the government gets back to work fully.
Yeah, it really is. You know, it's kind of sad and it's unfortunate, as I reiterated before the break, you know, anytime you have uncertainty or a lack of news that you normally deal with, it tends to be a little negative. I think that's one of the reasons that the market has tended to flounder a little bit here at this point in time. I don't think there's anything, you know, necessarily negative, but it's just the unknown. You know, when you look at the crop production numbers that we didn't have back on Friday, you know, everybody really believes that, you know, the yield numbers will go down for both corn and beans, corn more so than beans at this point. But it's that, are they really going to go down? We don't know, because this is the final accounting, and the USDA has really, you know, the most complete set of details that they've had for the crops that were the corn and soybean crops in particular that we've had all year, but they can't release them.
So we talked about South American weather like they were last year. I don't know if it's as severe, but what are you hearing from weather reports, and what are they experiencing right now?
Well, the weather down there has not lived up to hopes and expectations. Certainly, you know, it was funny. Back in December, we had one group that came out, you know, and had a range of estimates for beans. It was 123 to, I think, 129 million ton. You know, of recent, they came in and they were down somewhere under 120, but we had a low side number of 110 million ton come from someone. That's a 20 million ton swing from the high to where the low is today. That's 700 million bushels. That's huge. That's huge. You know, right now things are coming down. Over the weekend, ran across the story that really kind of intrigued me. Safras and Mercado, and they're a long-time private analyst down in Brazil. They came in with a number at 116 million ton, which tells me they think it might even be lower yet. So I think the market's got to start grappling with the idea of numbers shrink. Now, we have surpluses around the world. We certainly have here in the U.S. with a 900 million carryout. But I don't know that the bean supply is as negative, as oppressive as what people think. And actually, to be honest, when you look at a 900 million carryout in beans, if you just look at a stocks versus price or stocks to use versus price, I saw somebody over the weekend say that ought to be worth a $5 bill, and that's probably about
wow.
Right. Yeah, and here we are, a full $4 higher, but I think there's a lot of other moving parts in here that are causing that at this particular moment. And that's why, the Brazilian thing changing, the Argentine. In the north, it's been too wet. In the south, it's been too dry. We haven't heard any numbers out of there yet. We're still 55, 60, 56 million ton, but that could gravitate maybe down to 50, 52. So we're bleeding production out of South America.
Now, it was about a year ago that I was with Tamara Nelson and her group of farmers that was down there. And this time, a year ago, we were just swallowing dust because it was so bad down there. So in addition to weather, they got all their trucking situations and other transportation things worked out?
No. Freight's still a problem down there at this point. They've gotten through some of the details and some of the issues, but it's still going to be a problem. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds going forward. And I saw another story over the weekend that in Mato Grosso, and I don't know the completeness of this, but it was something to the effect they can't harvest beans after 6 in the evening. What does that do to the pace of bean harvest?
Wow.
I don't know if that was a labor issue that they can't force the people to work after 6 in the evening.
Environmental.
Or it wasn't environmental. I don't know the reasoning behind this. I just picked it up, and I was listening to this commentary in Portuguese, so I'm getting about every fifth word. But there is something going on there, and what ramification is that going to have? The big thing, we planted this crop early. Everybody thought we'd get a lot of Brazilian beans into the pipeline early. Harvest, started, but it's slow to move forward so far for a lot of different reasons. And if the freight thing and, some of these other regulations play into the mix, we may still have a vacuum here in the middle, for people in the world wanting to buy beans.
So a minute left. We started this program talking to Deanne Bloomberg with the president visiting AFBF. Do you expect anything from that message today that will impact us here?
No. There isn't much going on. Trump's going to speak down at AFBF today sometime. I don't know. I didn't watch calendar. Ag Secretary Perdue was going to speak down there sometime. And I don't know what they're going to say, but I don't think there's anything big coming out in here that we don't already know. And probably the big thing from a political standpoint in everybody's mind is how long is the shutdown going to last?
Mm-hmm. So shutdown, we also talked about the U.S., the UCMCA, the new NAFTA, and that I know a lot of folks would love for that to get moving and finalized.
Yeah, that's a situation for Congress to really get behind, get signed, seal, and deliver that at this point. That'll go through. I don't think there's a problem, but it's a matter of when's this stuff going to get done.
Well, like Terry Pope ended his segment earlier today, never boring, and that holds true for you too.
No.
Dale Durkol's Agrivisor Services, thank you so much for your information, and thanks to you all to join us today. We'll be back with you tomorrow for another edition of RFD Today. I'm Rita Frazier.
Stay tuned for more on RFD Today, right here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Yes, I listen to a lot of talk radio, but I wouldn't call myself a political junkie. I guess that's why I like being a member of the Illinois Farm Bureau. No matter what my comfort level is, Farm Bureau has something for me and my farm. As an Illinois Farm Bureau member, I can pick and...
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
When severe weather strikes, it's important you're in the know. Even if power goes out and cellular networks are down, radio can be your lifeline. And Next Radio is the free app that brings FM radio right to your Android smartphone. No data or cellular network required, and it won't drain your battery. Go to the Google Play Store right now. Download the Next Radio app to your Android device. Stay tuned to this station, and please stay safe. For a full list of compatible devices, visit nextradioapp.com.